Prohibition Talk Radio on WGDR 91.1 and WGDH 91.7.
Good morning, Canna friends and Canna foes. Welcome to another October morning. It is October 18th. We are excited for another In the Weeds Prohibition Talk Radio as one of my favorite holidays. I don't know if it's yours or not, but it is inching closer and closer. It is Halloween. Right now we have Brandon Barberio joining us on the phone out from Phoenix, Arizona. So what's up, Brandon?
Not much. What's going on, buddy?
Not much, man. I'm getting excited for the Halloween season, man, which brings us to another whole line of cannabis issues and questions and concerns, which would be obviously Halloween candy. There's a lot of stigmas going on around about that, and some things you might want to just think about. We'll talk about that after we do the news. We got a bunch of events that, Brandon just covered for us out west, which was awesome. It was one of Phoenix's, one of the first big events like this, right?
Yeah, it's the first annual CannaFest, and that was done by Green Farms and Trap Culture AZ. And they did an amazing job, and we'll definitely go over a bunch of details about that too as well.
All right, guys, and we also have some tickets to give away. So if you guys are in the Burlington, Vermont area, or just the Vermont area, just even the New England area, and you want to drive to Vermont, there's a great Halloween party going on, being presented by BTV Local 420. It is the Dazed and Costumed Haunted Grow House. So it's happening in a area in Williston, Vermont, next weekend, next Saturday. So we got a couple tickets to give away for that as well. So stay tuned for when we tell you guys to call in. It's becoming that holiday season, so we're trying to line up a bunch of giveaways, guys. So you're not going to want to miss these things. A lot of fun happening. So again, it is a great event. We got a live band, a grow house, edibles, dab bar, everything you could want at a cannabis event. So, including some of the best edibles around, being presented by BTV Local 420, Vermont Cannabis Solutions, Farm Fresh Hemp, our good friends at the Burn Gallery, and In the Weeds Prohibition Talk Radio, guys. So, a lot of great things happening. Again, 2 tickets to give away here shortly, but right now we're going to get into the news. Don't go anywhere, guys. This is our local and national Canna News. In the Weeds Prohibition Talk Radio, and this is your Canna News for October 18th, 2019. The UK licenses canopy growth for bulk medical cannabis imports. The Financial Times reports Canopy Grow's pharmaceutical division, Spectrum Therapeutics, has been granted a license to import bulk medical cannabis into the United Kingdom. It's the first such license issued by the Home Office and will allow the company to import cannabis from its facilities in Germany and Denmark and store it in its Buckinghamshire facility. Paul Steckler, managing director of Canopy's European business, said the license will allow Canopy to send its medical products out to patients the next day, like it does in Germany. Currently, UK patients wait up to 3 months for medical cannabis, since wholesalers have needed to wait for an import license from the UK officials, which was legalized last November. The UK's medical cannabis program is extremely limited, and it can only be prescribed when all other treatments have failed. Steckler told the Times that the company was not even looking at recreational cannabis opportunities within Europe. Steckler to the Times said, "It is enough of a challenge getting product to the patients where it is actually legal. Only 1,765 prescriptions have been issued in the UK since legalization last year. Canopy's Buckinghamshire facility can store enough cannabis to supply 5,000 patients a month." Can trust to destroy $65 million of cannabis inventory. Canna Trust Holdings Incorporated is set to destroy about $65 million worth of inventory and about $12 million worth of biological assets that were not authorized by the company's Health Canada cannabis cultivation license. The asset's destruction is part of the firm's remediation plan and is necessary in order for the company to get its license back. Health Canada suspended Canada Trust's license last month after it found the company had cultivated cannabis in unlicensed room at its grow facilities in Ontario. Health Canada gave one of the facilities a non-compliant rating and ordered Canada Trust to propose a remediation plan in August, 1 month after the company had placed more than 12,000 kilograms of inventory on hold. Danish company Stenocare was forced to quarantine oil derived from cannabis grown at Canada Trust facilities, and the fallout led to the ouster of CEO Peter Seto and the resignation of President Eric Paul. Robert Markovich, who was named interim CEO in August, said the remediation plan not only addresses the compliance issues outlined by regulators, but will also build a best-in-class compliance environment for the future. Markovich, in a statement, said, "We have already made significant progress in these efforts. Our goal is to meet and exceed Health Canada's regulatory standard and to rebuild the trust and confidence in our primary regulator, investors, patients, and consumers." The inventory that will be destroyed includes products returned by patients, distributors, and retailers. The company said it cannot process the material or sell it to another licensed producer because its license suspension only allows it to cultivate plants that already started growing and cannot sell or transfer any products. Canada Trust said it will submit a full remediation plan to regulators by October 21st. Denver's bonsai cultivation issues flower product recall. The Denverite reports Denver cannabis company Bonsai Cultivation has issued a recall of its flower, shake, trim, and pre-roll products due to excessive high yeast and mold counts. The Denver Department of Public Health and Environment says the stores and consumers should throw the products away. DDPHE opened the investigation after identifying multiple samples of marijuana plant material had failed total yeast and mold sampling from multiple retail store locations. DDPHE is investigating the issue and is overseeing the recall process to remove potentially contaminated products from commercial cultivation. At least 45 retail stores, cultivation facilities, and manufacturing facilities throughout Denver are affected by the recall. Products bought between April 30th and October 14th could be affected. It's the third recall by Denver cannabis companies this year. In April, Lightshade Labs LLC issued a voluntary recall over yeast and mold, which affected flower, shake, trim, and their pre-rolls. DDPHE said that investigation was open following customer complaints. Affected Lightshade products were sold at 5 Denver retailers, 1 Federal Heights retailers, and 2 Aurora retailers. In July, Universal Herbs LLC voluntarily recalled pre-rolls of blue cookie strain sold at the company's Denver location over yeast and mold counts. There have been no confirmed illnesses associated with any of the recalled products, but the agency said that potential health impacts depend on the product, duration, and frequency of use, including the level of exposure. Colorado's largest cannabis grower loses millions of dollars in early freeze, which disrupted supply. The largest marijuana grower in Colorado, Los Sueños Farms, disclosed it lost millions of dollars during an early winter storm after half the company's plants froze before harvest could be completed. The crop loss in southern Colorado is expected to send ripples throughout the state's cannabis supply chain, reducing the supply of cannabis available to retailers and processors. Those businesses could face higher wholesale cannabis prices. By contrast, extractors could benefit by getting access to additional plant material to manufacture goods such as infused products, edibles, and concentrates. With 36 acres in outdoor production plus an indoor cultivation operation, Los Sueños touts itself as being the largest cannabis farm in Northern America. The company has been harvesting hundreds of thousands of pounds of biomass for 5 years. It's going to be a huge bumper year, Los Sueños founder Bob DeGabriel said. Unfortunately, you can't do anything about Mother Nature. With the loss of this magnitude, there will likely be a shortage of flower in an already tight wholesale cannabis flower market. This is definitely going to affect the entire state supply, said Joshua Hopp, Chief Revenue Officer with Denver-based Medicine Man Technologies. DeGabriel said that he was looking at a yield that would have been 2 to 3 times bigger than his previous record, but the weather dashed all those hopes. One problem, however, Los Sueños greenhouses and hoop houses were already filled with drying plants that had been cut down starting in late September. As a result, the company had little additional storage space. His crew covered plants with blankets, but 50-mile-per-hour winds blew off all the coverings. The crew also ran hot water into fields to keep roots mass warm. We did everything we could to mitigate what was happening, DeGabriel said. According to DeGabriel, this is the second time in 33 years he has seen such snow and freeze just before Halloween. While the remaining material won't be sold on the flower market, the company can salvage the biomass and sell it for extraction. DeGabriel estimated he would have harvested 750,000 pounds of biomass before the storm, and now it's too early to tell what the final numbers will be until everything is harvested. He still needs to process the other 20,000 plants. Despite everything, DeGabriel expects the yield to come in about 25% better than last year. Workers will be harvesting plants for the next 2 weeks. DeGabriel emphasized that this isn't a total loss. Heavy metal poisoning may be causing the vaping illness epidemic. Vitamin E acetate has pretty much been eliminated as a possible cause of the vaping illness that has claimed at least 27 lives and hospitalized 1,300 people. With the vitamin E acetate off the table as a vape illness culprit, there's a new suspect in the ongoing mystery. Cadmium pneumonitis, a rare lung disease caused by inhaling heavy metal fumes. In a blog post published this week by Colorado Green Lab, cadmium pneumonitis is an extreme form of metal fume fever, presents many, if not most, of all the symptoms that have matched those associated with the vaping illness, which has been dubbed vaping-associated pulmonary injury, VAPI. Colorado Green Lab's study was developed and led by one of the lab's co-founders, Frank Conrad, who is an experienced biochemist. Conrad isn't the first scientist to suspect heavy metals could be causing VAPI, but he is the first to propose that a specific metal, cadmium, could be behind the recent health crisis. In our study, we have identified common but small variations in 510 cartridge threading design that correlate with airflow and venting performances across the series. The variations in thread design directly relate to manufacturing cost and retail price of the cartridges. The last complex cartridge design is also the cheapest to manufacture and the most ubiquitous type on the market. In other words, VAPI is likely the product of unregulated vape producers relying on the cheapest materials to keep their costs low while maximizing their profits. His suspicion could give investors a new insight to what is causing VAPI, considering some of the previous leads have gone nowhere. Last month, health authorities began looking into vitamin E acetate, an oil thickening agent that is used in unregulated black market vapes, but not in regulated ones, as a possible cause of the illness. Vitamin E acetate can contribute to lung illness called lipioid pneumonia, but it doesn't account for other symptoms seen in VAPI patients. According to the vitamin E hypothesis, vaporizing vitamin E acetate could form an oily buildup on the lungs. Once enough oil clogs the lungs' air sacs, breathing becomes difficult if not impossible. However, lung biopsies from 17 VAPI patients haven't shown any oily buildup in the lung tissue, which led the Mayo Clinic's conclusion that the illness is actually due to chemical burns and not oil buildup. Some of these analyses have shown that certain immune cells within the lungs of vape illness patients are covered in nanoscopic oil droplets, which is abnormal but should not obstruct the ability to breathe. Furthermore, Colorado's Green Lab proposal fits well with what we do know about the vaping illness crisis. People have been vaping nicotine products for over a decade. Cannabis vapes have also been around for years, but they grew in popularity after Colorado and Washington State launched the country's first recreational cannabis markets in 2014. Yet the vaping illness crisis occurred very recently, which suggests some new vape contaminant is causing it. Authorities have not yet determined if the contaminant is in the vaping oil, also known as vape juice, or if it's in the vaping device itself. Mary Jane reached out to the CDC regarding cadmium pneumonitis and VAPI, but the agency did not respond before publishing time. The Colorado Green Labs cadmium hypothesis states that the problem is likely not based in the oil, but in the hardware, specifically around the heating element or battery, which enables the device to reach temperatures high enough to vaporize the oil quickly. The cadmium composes part of the silver soldering material used to fuse the heating element's parts together. Licensed and legal vape devices do not use cadmium because of this heat leaching issue. One UK study provides some support to Conrad, as it found most commercially available vape products produce heavy metal fumes. If a heavy metal such as cadmium is causing VAPI, the health crisis may not end anytime soon. That's because cadmium has a bad habit of sticking around in the human body. Cadmium has an excretion half-life of 10 to 30 years, Conrad wrote, and if confirmed as the causal agent of VAPI, patients may be at risk for kidney damage long after the respiratory syndrome has been resolved. Pennsylvania senators filed comprehensive marijuana legalization bill. Two Pennsylvania senators introduced a comprehensive marijuana legalization bill on Tuesday, just weeks after Governor Tom Wolf announced that he's in favor of the policy. Two senators filed the legislation which would allow adults 21 and older to possess, cultivate, and purchase cannabis from licensed retailers. It also contains social justice provisions aimed at promoting equity in the industry, including automatically expunging prior cannabis convictions and providing interest-free loans to low-income individuals who want to participate within the market. Adults could grow up to 10 cannabis plants for personal use under the bill. Cannabis deliveries and social use lounges at dispensaries would also be permitted. Pennsylvania's cannabis policy is cruel, irrational, and expensive, Leach, who previously championed the legislation that created the state's medical cannabis law, said in a press release. Prohibition has destroyed countless lives and has cost taxpayers millions. The bill, first reported by the Philadelphia Inquirer, is designed to limit the influence of large cannabis corporations and empower small businesses to enter the market. It would accomplish that by creating licenses for microgrowers who could cultivate up to 150 plants with permits costing $250 annually. Existing medical cannabis dispensaries could sell recreational products as long as the supply chains are kept separate, and there'd be no cap on the number of retailers. However, no single owner could operate more than 3 shops. For large marijuana firms, they'd be limited to 150,000 square feet of outdoor space for cultivation or 60,000 square feet for indoor facilities. Like dispensaries, there isn't a cap on how many of these facilities could operate, but licenses would be capped at 1 per owner. There'd be a $100,000 application fee, with renewals costing $10,000 annually. Unlike a separate legalization bill that was introduced earlier this month, the proposal would not utilize state-run stores to distribute legal marijuana. An end to the prohibition of cannabis is overdue, Street said. It is time for us to join an emerging cannabis economy with the legalization of adult use of cannabis in Pennsylvania, which should be not a crime when responsibly used by adults, nor mandate medical oversight. Cannabis retail sales would be taxed at 17.5%, which lawmakers predict will generate $500 million during the first fiscal year of implementation. Revenue would be mostly directed to school districts, which would be able to decide how they spend their shares, whether by hiring additional staff, invest in educational programs, or even providing local tax relief to homeowners in their districts, according to the lawmakers' press release. We are fighting to create an adult-use cannabis program where individuals harmed by prohibition and small Pennsylvania farms and businesses will have the opportunity not only to participate in the industry, but to profit from it, Leach, who also launched a website where residents can voice support for the bill, said. And that's it for your local and national Canada news for October 18th, 2019. All right, guys, and we are back. What a long week of news this week, man. Pennsylvania legalization bill looks amazing, man. I don't know if anybody has got a chance to look over it, but it seems to be a lot of in line with what Vermont was kind of looking at doing, you know what I mean? Really looking forward to getting the small craft businesses up and going, making it affordable to enter the industry and making it a competitive industry for everybody. The only thing we didn't talk much about here is, you know, the equity, the social equity, what we're going to do back for the people who have been harmed through the prohibition of cannabis, right? Great things happening there. We're really excited about what's going on in that area. Again, guys, just to recap today's show, we're going to talk about it here in a minute. But we had a guest, Kerri Parker. Most people know who's the ex-Playboy or the winner of, you know, the UK pageants. I mean, she's won like 6 years in a row right now. She came down with 2 brain tumors a few years ago, about 5 years ago now. She had it operated on, and about 4 years later, they told her that she had it again. So she's refusing chemo. What she's doing is using cannabis oil, and she's doing very well with it. Unfortunately, today, as being a model, they have things that pop up like video shoots. So unfortunately, she can't join us today because of a video shoot that popped up. We're hoping to be able to work all around that and get her on the line, but unfortunately, we can't. So hopefully we'll be able to get her back on some other time. But I do want to talk about her story because, you know, we definitely don't get a chance to talk a lot about patients within the cannabis industry and how this affects patients, right? We talked a lot with producers and makers and growers and people who enjoy it. You know, comic book people, which we want to give a big shout out to the Token Dead as well, who just released their newest copy of their comic book, right? Issue 2. So issue 2's out, guys. We are in it. Make sure you find it. We also have Stone Age magazines as well, which we can be found live streamed out right now, guys. So if you need to head out of the show, if you're afraid you can't take us with you because you're out of our listening range, you can stream us right there. StoneAgeMagazine.com. Also, guys, if you're looking for archives of the show, www.wgdr.org stores archives for 2 weeks where you can also find the live streams. Now, guys, crazy stuff about the vapes. Let's talk about vapes just really quick because that's our hottest topic right now. Brandon, me and you've been talking about this for a long time. That last article that we just read on the news today was quite impressive because it's something that we've been talking about for a long time. It's something that Dr. Uma's been talking about for a long time. The metals, right? So now we have this issue where we have they're finding metals. We were saying a long time ago that we were thinking. I mean, it wasn't so much the solder, but the actual metal elements that they use in the heating coils. When they heat up, they put off toxins, right, guys? Like anything gets hot, it's going to burn, right? So. No different than, 1,000-degree dab. You know what I mean? You're just smoking toxins. You just destroyed everything. So,
Exactly.
They're finding that, these solders in this cadmium, is giving off some of these lung burns. And I mean, right now it's still, another idea. It's not something that they have, extreme hold on, but, it makes sense. You know what I mean? The world has been vaping cigarette, nicotine, juices for how long now, right? It's not like it's a brand new market.
No.
Even the vaping in cannabis land is not necessarily a new market. It's been kind of going on for a little while. We talk about products a lot. Mainly the products that we talk about are the ones that are not testing to be what they claim to be, right? It's this is our other issue that we're seeing a lot within the world. I mean, even Curaleaf, the nation's biggest cannabis company, got in trouble by the FDA for misrepresentation, which it's not misrepresentation, but we can't make health claims to the CBD, right?
Yeah,
so the FDA
that's a big no-no.
Which is crazy because now we're seeing overseas that all these countries are putting forth money towards research. You know what I mean? Yep. Let me see. I'm going to pull up right here.
Actually, I think we're in a good place with all this, to really be fair, because I like the whole fact that there's been enough testing done that the vitamin E acetate is definitely ruled out. Okay?
Yep.
I like the fact that everyone is focusing on the fact that it's now heavy metals. Let's get, if that's it, cool. If not, let's rule that out too as well.
Right.
Okay? And I think that the process here, as long as the studies keep going and keep advancing, and everyone, because there's a lot of people that have a lot of equity invested in vaping, period. You know what I mean? Whether it's in a regular market for juice and nicotine, whether it's in a market for CBD or THC, it doesn't really matter. Everybody's got a huge stake in this, okay? So everybody wants results so that we can narrow it down so that we do have a definitive result. So at least that's happening.
Are we jumping the gun here, though, media-wise? I mean, I know it seems like, I mean, we've talked about how, you know, not to take anything away from the issues that happen now. We have over 20 deaths and, you know, almost 2,000 people who've been affected by this issue. We're not trying to take anything away from that, but don't we have we have much bigger issues every day that have to do with just smoking and alcohol alone, right? So, I mean, I understand the scare. Everybody jumped on it. We banned it, but, you know, we banned cigarettes, or we're literally losing, you know, the same 20 people a day. This needs to be fixed. We do need to find it, but, you know, now we're seeing lawmakers make a push to legalize based on, you know, trying to get this market regulated.
Progress.
Right?
I say progress because it just shows that if they do this, there will be the regulatory system we need in place in order to do the testing so that it's not illegal anymore to get those results. I mean, yeah, I don't care what the reason is. Do it to put it in place so that we can weed all these things out, no pun intended, and then literally move forward. Like,
right.
It makes sense. I mean, it really does. Everybody else is doing it. Why aren't we? You know, like, I feel like that old cliche, like, well, all the cool kids are doing it. Yeah, well, we're not. Why?
Well, I mean, that's the issue. You know, we talked about it when we had Dr. Mary Clifton, who was on a few weeks ago. We were talking about it. It was like, why does it seem like it's only an issue that we're seeing in America? You know what I mean? We're not seeing really deaths like this in Canada or, you know, overseas. I think, I mean, I could be wrong, but I've only seen maybe one report of even an illness due to vaping up there.
Yeah, I mean, Canada is a perfect example of what a regular federal regulatory system looks like. I would say it's a stinking success. I'm not saying that they don't have their issues. I'm not saying they don't have their problems. You know, I mean, they just got edibles like today, I think it was. Okay.
Yesterday I think it was. But yeah, I want to talk about that. We didn't put it in the news, but congratulations to Canada on edibles. Like, now they are allowed to have edibles within their products, right? A lot of people didn't know about that because it's been fairly quiet in the news.
Right. But they're doing it, and they're getting it done with everything that they need to cover. You know, next is going to be public consumption or a rewrite of public consumption, as well as vaping lounges, as well as they're going to steam ahead. And that is progress once again. Like, and that's why they're not having problems. And I'm not saying that, you know, there probably isn't some form of a black market of cannabis that still exists in Canada, and there probably is. But not when, I mean, it's got to be pretty tough to compete in a certain sense. But, I mean, once again, they're getting it done.
Right. Now, I mean, a lot of things seem to be happening in the UK right now, in Canada. Another report the other day, one of Canada's biggest companies that produce flour is actually going to cut the bottom market out. They're trying to lower the prices per gram so that people can afford it and compete with the black market, right?
I mean, this is just taking initiative to be right in that competitive field. I think, I'm sure, in a certain sense, it's kind of a test market, right? Mm-hmm. But let's really, $4.45 a gram or something like that?
Yeah, like, they got it below $5 a gram. And, you know, you can buy, like, an ounce was just, you know, like $140. I'm trying to pull up the exact article right now. So does that compete? You know what I mean? Is I guess it's going to be the quality of the product. You know what I mean? Right now, we just found out that there's been a huge, not quite a recall, but one of the biggest cannabis providers have had a huge recall. They have to kill $65 million worth of cannabis. Can't trust mold. Basically mold, guys. So I mean, so far this year, a lot of people have been talking about how the mold hasn't been a very big issue, but I mean, right here, Can't Trust is, they're going to destroy $65 million worth of inventory and $12 million worth of biological assets. That is huge. And this week is kind of weird because we've seen all these issues. So now we see, these guys are destroying $65 million worth of products because of mold and issues due to their grow issues, right? And then we see, out west that, one of our biggest providers of cannabis within the country just, the Frost, right? Because we were talking about outdoor growing. These guys have the biggest outdoor grow going, and they just basically lost it all. You know what I mean? Just because the weather came in. And that's what the big issue is with dealing with weather. But these guys had over 1,000 acres? I was just like, I was just blown away by it. I
mean, all I really have to say to that, because we got to take a break real quick, is you want to play, you got to pay.
Right, 36 acres of outdoor products, and they lost about 2/3 of it. I can imagine the scrambling that has to go on to cover 36 acres of plants or to take it down. And the biggest problem was storage, right? Because it came in faster than they anticipated, and their last clear was still drying. So, this is something that they say they're not going to be affected by, but it's going to definitely have a pinch on the market as far as products go, because it's going to put a little, again, it's another loss. So it's going to be tougher to get a little bit more of these products. A lot of these products are going for mass production into edibles and cartridges and things like that, which you don't want to have in your edibles and cartridges. But like Brandon said, guys, we do have to take a quick break. This is WGDR Playful, WGDH Hardwick. You're tuned into Prohibition Talk Radio with Brandon Barberio and Joseph Smith. Right now we're going to get into the strain of the week brought to us by Brandon Barberio, which this week is the Bubba Kush, who, by the way, Brandon, is our guest next week. So if you guys haven't heard of the legendary Bubba Kush, we're going to have him on next week. I believe he's calling in from Hawaii. Hopefully we can get everything done. I know everybody's busy right now with their hemp farms and clearing and processing and drying and hanging. So hopefully we can get him in, because he's got a great story, guys. They're doing some crazy things down in Hawaii right now. Strain of the week, Bubba Kush.
I'm Brandon Barberio, your cannabis expert from the Weeds Prohibition Talk Radio on WGDR. This week's strain of the week is the Bubba Kush. If you're craving a sweet smoke that leaves you relaxed, then the Bubba Kush is for you. The genetic history of this strain can be tracked back to the Hindu Kush Mountains. However, its complete history is almost unknown due to poor documentation. The Bubba Kush is a 100% indica, so you can anticipate feeling relaxed and also leaving you in a couch lock. Many patients prefer this strain due to its ability to alleviate insomnia, depression, stress, ADD, and ADHD. Although Bubba Kush can relieve many ailments, it's not really a daytime strain unless you plan on sleeping your day away. Upon smoking, you will be introduced to an earthy and sweet taste that complements a pine scent. The Bubba Kush is a very vivid green, it has purple buds, and is coated in amber hairs, with an abundant covering of trichomes, making it almost as sticky as the bubblegum strain itself. Once again, I'm Brandon Barberio, your cannabis expert from the Weeds Prohibition Talk Radio on WGDI.
So, I mean, Bubba Kush, man, who doesn't who's never even heard of that? You know what I mean?
Right.
We laugh about it, and we were talking about the other night, Brandon, and it was kind of funny because right after we were talking about Bubba Kush, I was listening to another cannabis podcast, and they were talking about the legendary Bubba Kush. It was all about Bubba Kush, and it was basically based on the Pineapple Express movie where, you know, it was like all these different interviews and stuff, and the name Bubba Kush kept coming up, and I was like, man, this is going to be interesting. So again, guys, next week Bubba Kush will be on. So for this week, I want to get into this week's topic, which is basically Kerri Parker, who was a person who went through a brain tumor, brain cancer, came through it, absolutely refused chemo, didn't think that, you know, it would add that much to her life, knew it wasn't going to make her feel that great about life, and went to Cannabis Oil. As a person, and you know, she's been very accomplished. She's done many things. She's been, you know, just an amazing woman. She's a former Miss United Kingdom, and even since her diagnostics, guys, she's still winning Miss UK. She's literally won it every year since she's been diagnosed with cancer, which is 5 times now, and she's even had to wear a wig at one point. So, you know, she's definitely an inspiration to young aspiring women, and one of the greatest things she does is she has a Kerri Parker Academy, which was founded in 2008, and it was founded to help new and aspiring models get started out in the industry, and not only get started out, but to be a more safer and secure place for them, and helping them, you know, get through the scams and the pitfalls and many of these issues that most of these models encounter. You know what I mean? Whether it's sexual harassment or different things that they do, but it's definitely grown into one of the biggest, if not the biggest, model training schools in the UK. So we want to give the Kerri Parker Academy a big shout out there for helping girls and even men. And if you go to their website, you'll see people with handicap, disabilities, like just, you know, she's allowing people to help live their dreams through her own traumas, right? As a model and nutritionist, she has raised over 20,000 pounds for brain tumor research, and you can go online and find that she does have many different fundraisers all the time, trying to raise money to help fund with brain cancer. Her story is well known. She's very well known because she is from over in London. She does go back and forth between LA, being a model and things like that, and she does have one of her academies in LA as well. So, you know, just an amazing woman. She was basically diagnosed with an inoperable brain tumor. And she, like we said, rejected chemotherapy. Just amazing. She was a former Army medic, a Bond girl double, Playboy bunny. But she decided the physical and mental cost of being in a hospital for a year was a little bit too much. I mean, and that's the thing that we don't talk about enough with cancer patients, like that journey. I mean, we talk about chemo, we know how hard it is, but do we? You know, she's looking at a month in a hospital to recover. And, you know, when you see the operation and the toll it takes on somebody like that, you're just like, wow. You know what I mean? But right now, she's using cannabis oil, and she's made a big push to change her intake to natural foods, and she's trying, you know, just live her life healthy. She's doing great, man. We want to give her a big shout out to her. Unfortunately, again, we couldn't have her on, but I mean, we can't get enough patients on to the show to describe what happens. I mean, how many people out there right now listening to the show are a patient or somebody who's thinking about dropping that opioid and turning to medical cannabis? When we talk about medical cannabis, we're not talking about joints, right? Like we laugh about it a lot, and a lot of people look at it, and it's kind of like the funny, you know, the stoner joke. But let's get serious for a minute here. Vape carts, which we talk about all the time, that's not medicine, guys. You know, flour helps. I mean, a lot of people like to smoke. I like to smoke. I mean, I do it for my own stomach and head issues that I have had for many years now, which really helps me out. But I like to smoke. You know what I mean? Most people like to concentrate, stuff like that. But like we can't talk about it enough. And I had a long talk with my good buddy Fran Janik yesterday when we were talking about dispensaries and things like that. And you know, how can you tell your dispensaries after your own good? You know what I mean? How many dispensaries out there actually make RSO? How many dispensaries are making the FICO oils? You know what I mean? There's great people online that are making these oils. They're really high concentrated THC oils. So ultimately, they take a lot of product to make, right? It's kind of like,
Yep.
It's kind of like the your gravy or things like that, where you just want you're cooking it down. It's the flavors are coming out. It's strengthening itself. It's getting better. It's kind of like demi-glace. You know what I mean?
Right.
And you come up with these two products, right? So I mean, there's a lot of big conversations about the differences between Fico oil and Rick Simpson oil, right? And neither one of these are just CBD based. That's one thing that I want to put out there. I mean, and we see a lot of the cancer treatments are CBD, THC, 1-to-1s. You kind of have to have one with the other to get the effect that you need, right? So it's not all about getting a bottle of CBD from your gas station or Amazon, right? That's not going to help you guys. So just let's be real for a minute, you know what I mean? Because let's talk about health. Because I mean, here we have a young lady who gets diagnosed with 2 brain cancers, right? Refuses chemotherapy, and obviously she's doing well. We talk about people like Stephen Miller. We have another couple of people coming onto the show that we're talking to recently about their issues of trials and tribulations with being basically terminal, right? To the point where your doctors are giving you no other options, and that's the only way these people are getting their hands into this cannabis is because there is no other option. So the doctors, they put their hands up and say, hey, you're going to be dead in a couple of weeks. Do what you want. You know what I mean? And then now all of a sudden, 4 or 5 years later, these people are still alive. They're doing well. They're healthy. It's amazing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And now
it's tough to get patients to really come on the air, right, and really kind of voice their opinion too, as well. I mean, we both know that there's a ton of nostalgia that's really built up around all this. Okay. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure that there's a lot of great patients out there that have amazing information, and sometimes people are hesitant to share that. And we understand that these are definitely sensitive topics and sensitive information that, people are sitting down and basically bestowing upon the public, Right. I think that there's a lot of great products out there, the Rick Simpson oils, the Ficos, and I think if used properly and made properly, they definitely produce the results that everyone is saying that they do. I can't say that it works for everyone, but obviously there's a huge result because people are getting the results that they're looking for, and and if not, then they're trying other products to get the results that they're looking for. I haven't really heard too many failure stories. I mean, have you?
No, not many. I mean, one of the biggest inspirations to this show was, what was it, about 15, 20 years ago now, was we talk about a lot on the show. It was a 4-year-old little girl in Texas who was going to get taken away from her parents because her parents decided to treat her with cannabis oil when she was terminal.
Right.
And she was terminal about 20 years ago now. And guess what? She's still alive. And that is because of what we've seen this cannabis oil do. I've known children in Vermont that have had a lengthened life. Unfortunately, some of them have passed. And I know many children in Vermont that have passed because of the lack of, just the narrow-mindedness of how, could this help? You know what I mean? And the reliability on an opioid or a pharmaceutical drug that, a lot of us know it kills us. You know what I mean? Like, what's the biggest thing with chemo? You know what I mean? It's you basically poison yourself. That's what you do to your body to get rid of the cancer, right?
I mean, I've heard several different people, and I've had several different conversations with people that have literally looked at me and said, I think the chemotherapy is killing me faster than the cancer is.
Right. I mean, that's
and when you have that type of a realization, I'm sure automatically there's got to be, I know I would, as a human being, definitely flip that switch and be like, okay, we need to change this immediately.
Right. I mean, definitely as fast as we can, right?
Right.
So, I mean, and you're right, Brandon. You hit the nail on the head. And everybody, we talk to patients all the time, right? Patients love to talk to us, tell us their stories. But the minute we try to get on there, it's tough. It's hard. It's hard to share your personal feelings with people, because I mean, a lot of this comes with depression, a lot of this comes with sadness. I can't imagine being a model, an award-winning model at the height of your career, aspiring actress, to be told that, hey, you have two brain tumors, you're going to die in a few months. We all know somebody who's been told that they only have months to live, right? I mean, friends, families. That's why I know that this issue touches everybody that listens to the show and further. I don't know of anybody in this world that hasn't been affected by someone who's died of some sort of cancer. And I've seen it firsthand with family members of myself, where one day they're walking around, they're fine, they're like, oh, I got a headache, they go to the doctor, and 2 weeks later they're literally like 100% to zero, faster than you've ever seen. And dang, that's a scary thing to think about, especially when there's these options, there's these choices, there's these things that people can do to make sure that they get what they need. Like we said, it's not cure-all, end-all. We've had Dr. Bob on, and it's kind of funny because the more and more people we talk about, it's kind of like the deeper and deeper and deeper we get into this whole realm of cannabis and how it can help you. You can, we're learning what it can do. You know what I mean? 100 years ago, we knew it was a medicine. We got rid of it. It's come back. And now we're seeing all these positive effects. Is it the end-all cure-all? No, like Dr. Bob says, and I've talked to everybody again about this. It's your health, man. It's are you a healthy person in general? Are you eating good? Are you in good spirits? Is your mind in the right place? And as we all know, these all tie into each other. You know what I mean? Are you smoking cigarettes? Are you doing other drugs? Are you an alcoholic? You know what I mean? These things can wreak havoc on your life and your mental stability, right? Do you get up every day and want to go do something? Or do you get up every day and are you mad at the world? You know what I mean? Cannabis can help, but it can only go so far. You know what I mean? Everybody's overall health has to just we have to be conscious about what we put in our bodies. Are we going to eat McDonald's every day? Are we going to eat ramen noodles every day? Some of us have to because of finances. We get it, but there's other options. You know what I mean? You can make health an affordable option. But to keep going with that, Kerri Parker, guys, go check her out. Go check out the Kerri Parker Academy. See what they're doing for aspiring models, and let her know that you're listening, guys. You can find her on Facebook, Instagram. She's everywhere. She's very open about what happened to her and why. You know what I mean? So it's not like you have to go search for her. There's plenty of articles everywhere about, again, her story and where she came from. And like I said, she is from overseas. She's from the UK. She's residing in London now. But, to basically be faced with the adversity of 3 cancers, basically, and to get through it with Cannabis Oil. It's just crazy the amount that what she went through. You know what I mean? So, guys, check her out. And it's been great because she really did spearhead this whole alternative medicine kind of ideology over there in the UK. Because, as we know, the UK laws are kind of weird, man. Where she was from, it was illegal. So she, at that point in time, was openly admittedly committing a felony in her country. So, remarkable story, guys. Check it out. Find out more about it. We're going to bounce back to a little bit of events going on. Lots of crazy stuff going on, guys. It's Halloween. Halloween is coming up, as we talk about every year. The biggest concern about Halloween is what? Am I going to get some edible candies, right? How to tell them about edible candies. Guys, we talked about this a little bit in the beginning of the show, and, it was, are people really going to give out edible candies?
I mean, come on. Let's really think about this logically for a second, okay? Let's say there's some guy out there that's just giving out, in the picture of the article, I love the picture in the article, it's a perfect package from someplace like California or Oregon, tells you exactly what's in it, tells you exactly how many milligrams, how much THC, this and that, blah, blah, blah. One package of those gummies usually averages like 30, 40, 50 bucks. I mean, who's really spending that much money to give cannabis candy away on Halloween to children?
Right.
That seems like a little bit of a reach. I mean, I'm just saying now, you know, I'll play devil's advocate here with myself, and maybe you're making them homemade, but, you know, you're still going to have to buy the distillate or whatever it is that you're going to put into said edibles, gummies, cookies, whatever it is you're making. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, at the same point, like, the cost is going to be exorbitant for you to produce this just so you can give it away to children, once again. Mm-hmm. I mean, huge question mark, like... And the only thing that I really get with that at this point is, I mean, are people really that kind of not educated enough to realize what the cost of these products would actually be, that people would not just be producing them and giving them away?
Right. I mean, there's a cost to it. That was the biggest thing that I wanted to touch base on and get out there is, you know, you're worried about this. I mean, somebody has to be really kind of purposely trying to do something if this is what they're thinking, you know what I mean? Because it's like, you know, as much as I would like to agree with that scenario, I mean, you know, and we see a lot of funny jokes online, you know, hey, you know, it should be a concern for parents. And then it's kind of funny because everyone's like, well, where's that house? Because I want to go there. But as a parent, you know what I mean? It's like, it's the house with the line of parents out the door is the house that you probably don't want to bring your kids to. It's just, you know, that's what I have to say. But guys, it's definitely something to be look out for. I mean, obviously, when we were kids, we had issues with, you know, growing up with needles and
sharp,
you know, sharp objects in candies, and it was something that was legitimately happening. So it's not like I want to brush over this Halloween candy issue because
I mean, definitely check it out. You know what I mean? Go through it like you used to back in the day and whatnot. Check everything out. You know, if anything seems out of place, pull it aside. Like, that's just being, you know, really kind of just looking out and making sure that everything's safe as it is, you know what I mean? So any parent's going to do that either way, I would imagine. So, you know.
Yeah, no, and as you should as a parent. But that doesn't mean they're out there. And again, you know, we talk about it being in people's homes, right? So, like, guys, just, you know, as you would any other time, just keep away from your kids. You know, I know it's that time of year where people are probably going to give parents, you know, a lot of the adults are probably going to have their own little Halloween. I mean, there's parties everywhere going on, guys, for adults, and especially in this day and age now where, you know, the cannabis consumption is being a lot less destigmatized. It's more open. There's places. There's people putting these events together. We're part of an event next weekend coming up here in Burlington, brought to you by BTV Local 420. So if you guys want to check that out, go right to our page. We're going to be giving away tickets. So we're probably going to give away tickets here in about a half hour, guys. So again, if you want to win tickets to BTV Local 420's Days in Costumed Haunted Grow House happening in, I believe it's Winooski, Vermont. But we'll have to tell you when you win the tickets. So,
I mean, another thing too, Joe, is Lizzie Post, right, just recently released that book of etiquette on cannabis. So maybe you guys want to pick that up while you're out there too, and she'll just tell you what you need to do in the different types of settings that you have for parties, events. Mm-hmm. I mean, because there really is kind of you know, you wouldn't just leave a bottle of Oxycontin sitting on the table. Hey guys, just help yourselves. Don't worry about it. Hey, you know, it's okay. You know, maybe you should use the same type of etiquette when dealing with your edibles, your flour, your concentrates, you know. I mean, just kind of common sense, but some people just need to be told things.
Right, and they do. I mean, and they definitely do. It's amazing how some people just... common sense, you know what I mean? A lot of it's just common sense awareness, knowing what you're doing. But again, if you guys are going to go out and enjoy Halloween as an adult, just be proper about it. You know what I mean? Make sure you know what you're doing. You make sure your kids aren't around. Make sure whatever you bring home from any of these events that you go to isn't going to end up in your kids' hands. That's the biggest thing for us.
Yeah.
And if they do, the biggest thing to know is how to handle that. And as you know, crushed black or whole black pepper you can put in your mouth. That also helps bring down any sort of THC or CBD highs that you're not feeling comfortable with, right? You can also use CBD, which a lot of people don't realize. If you guys have CBD oil, then you can just take a little bit of CBD oil. It'll help round out any sort of ill effects that you may be feeling from a sort of edible high that you have. And don't. I think a lot of it is people just get weirded out because they have an expectation of one thing and get the other because maybe they don't understand what they're taking in, what they're consuming. Maybe they don't even know what's even in that for a type or a strain of cannabis, which, as we know, can affect everybody a little bit differently. And there's uppers, there's downers. I mean, I don't want to say like uppers and downers as in that sense, but there's strains that will give you energy. There's strains that will very happily make you relax on the couch for a few hours. And when you do take an edible, guys, it's a little bit different than smoking. So a lot of you guys, if you've never taken an edible out there, and there's many of you that haven't, and they're interested, and we talk to you guys every day. Just be aware, it's a very different high than smoking. If you ever smoked, it's more of a body buzz. It lasts a little bit longer, which I think is what freaks people out the most. It's like, oh, it's going to go away. It's going to go away. Has it gone away? Has it gone away? Oh my God. You know what I mean? So, and then the biggest thing people do wrong is they eat that cookie and say that cookie's a 300 milligram cookie. Either one of two things: either eat the whole cookie, being like, it's just a cookie, right? What harm can it do? Or they eat, they be responsible and eat a portion of that cookie to a half hour later be like, I don't feel anything. To eat another portion to 20 minutes later not feel anything, to end up eating the whole cookie and then just get it all at once. You know what I mean? And then you're at that point where you're talking to yourself, you're getting a little bit freaked out. You know what I mean? Because you're like, what the heck happened to me? So guys,
it's kind of funny though. Like back in the day, people used to joke about that's not that tray of brownies, right? You know what I mean? And you're seeing it happen more and more and more, especially among the 50-plus crowd, if you will. Where you'll hear the story about the group of there were like 3 or 4 elderly couples that were hanging out and this and that, and somehow maybe their son or something had baked a tray of brownies and left them out there, and they just accidentally ate them, and everybody was just, all of a sudden was like, hey, what's going on? And I read an article actually a couple days ago about that, saying that edibles are very popular among the elderly crowd because of the effects that they have. And obviously in the right dosing, they get the right results that they're really looking for. So it's kind of funny because you are seeing that more and more and more. What used to be a joke is now actually a proper way that everybody wants to consume cannabis. Once again, just removing the nostalgia from it as well.
Right.
Because, at the end of the day, grandma doesn't want to be smoking cannabis, but maybe she wants to eat a cookie after her meal and go take a nap in the chair.
Right.
Hey,
right?
Exactly. I mean, it's all about education. And, as the holidays come up and, I think a lot of things are changing in a lot of places. A lot of families may be using cannabis now together during the holidays and whatnot. Sure, there's a lot of people that are more experienced than other people, but just educate those people. Talk to those people. Because I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that have a lot of questions. And this is a really big topic right now.
And it is.
Education is definitely key.
Well, I mean, that's the basis of it all. Get educated, people. If you don't know, then just ask. I mean, it's 2019 now, right? So we're less than a year away from 2020. The technology is there. All you got to do, and the industry is more than happy to talk to you guys about it, right? More than happy to take a second, explain what you need, and then help you get to where you need to go. So it's definitely talk. Be concerned, but educate yourself. The stigmas are not what they were. That's the biggest thing we got to tell people. You know what I mean?
Right.
The stoner stigma, sure, it exists for some of these people, but so does the prescriptions and all these other stigmas throughout any other type of anything you do in your life, right? But we're seeing that all these stigmas are being shattered. Smoking cannabis will make you fat because it's going to give you munchies, right? And we realize that for athletes and to actually slim people down, smoking cannabis can help. You know what I mean? Can it give you the munchies? Yeah, but if you use it properly, it's going to give the right people the right munchies to get what they need to eat, because there's cancer patients that cannot eat. You know what I mean? So knowing what's going to make you go and work right, like you said, do you want to come home and sit on the couch and relax? Here's some
like a super high rate indica,
Yeah, you know what I mean? Do you want to go to work today? You got to get up. You want to go to a show? You want to enjoy your night? You got to be able to move. Here's a hybrid or a
super high rate sativa,
Yeah, so, and go enjoy your night, you know what I mean? We're finding that a lot of these guys are getting off of opioids, and the alcohol attraction is much less because you just feel really good, you know what I mean? You don't need alcohol to kind of mess it up, or you don't need any sort of opioid. And it's great to see that all these places are doing these researches, man. More and more about the the attraction to opioids, and how that relationship is working. Right now California itself just gave $3 million to UC San Diego for CBD research. So they're doing it, right? One of the biggest things I want to talk about earlier that I didn't touch on, and it's coming back in my head again, was that the UK now is licensing for medical imports, right? But they're also putting money behind more testing. You know what I mean? We talk about this a lot, and it's like, how are people finding things out? Because right now, especially in America, our government is not putting money behind any sort of testing that we know of. I mean, we have our small one little grow that they have going on with not really good cannabis, right? They are not providing people with products to test. I mean, there's lots of people out there that are trying to test things. They are taking this money and investing it heavily into test on their private tests. So now, do these private tests count as a federally authorized test? I don't know. You know what I mean? Will it count towards legalization when we can have the UC San Diego provide this report, which, we see from Harvard, a lot of stuff is coming out of Harvard, MIT, you know what I mean? What's the validity of these tests, and how do people look at it when we are sitting here in America going, there's not enough information. There's not enough information. You know what I mean? Which is going on way too much right now. Way too much. Everyone's, where's the information? Where's the information? Where's the information? But it's there. We've had it. We've had it for years, right? We even had
it for a really long time, and to touch on what you were kind of talking about, we don't have the testing that we need on cannabis because of the legality issues that we have with the federal government in the United States, where in other places around the world, those issues don't exist.
No,
and because they don't exist, they're light years ahead of what's going on in cannabis, and they know what it does, what the ramifications are. If you want to call them side effects,
right? Side effects. They are, though, aren't they? Right now, we get the Australian government's investing $3 million for medical cannabis studies. Canada's Arthritis Society wants the medical cannabis in pharmacies, man. Lots of crazy stuff happening. All right, guys. Well, it is 1 o'clock. We got to take a quick break. We'll be right back with Timothy Fair from Vermont Cannabis Solutions to talk to us about Canada law, the leaf law. What do you guys want to talk about this week? There's been a lot of crazy stuff going on, but we're going to take a break right now. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back with Tim.
You're listening to In the Weeds Prohibition Talk Radio on WGDR 91.1 and WGDH 91.7.
My name is Ricky Williams.
My name is Evan Britton.
My name is Marcus Stelly.
My name is Boo Williams.
My name is Jim McMahon.
My name is Chris Clute.
My name is Kyle Turley.
I played in one of the major North American football leagues.
I have 2 championship rings from that big game we play at the end of the season.
In college, I won a trophy that looks like this. In football are subject to a life of injury,
pain,
and disease,
both during and long after their careers are over.
And that's why I smoke pot.
That's why I smoke cannabis.
That's why I smoke weed. That's why I smoked weed when I played.
It has, without a doubt, reduced the amount of pain I live with.
It's my body. I know.
But for some reason, the major North American non-Canadian football league refuses to allow players to use cannabis.
Instead of allowing for safe, natural healing,
the sport pushes players towards addictive narcotic painkillers with serious side effects.
So let's get real, Roger.
Football players should be allowed to use medicinal marijuana
without the stigma of it being a banned substance.
Cannabis isn't a drug.
It is a medicine.
Sometimes you catch that funky breeze. You're in the weeds.
All right, and now we're back, guys. Right now we have Timothy Fair from Vermont Cannabis Solutions just joining us on the line. Thank you for coming in, Timothy Fair.
Hey, Joe.
Real quick, one thing I wanted to say real quick. We just played the Gridiron PSA, right? About, football players, athletes using cannabis. And there's a huge amount of these guys using cannabis right now. And I just want to give a big shout out, and not only because we're in a New England based area and the Patriots may or may not be one of my favorite football teams. I want to give a big shout out to Robert Kraft and Rob Gronkowski, guys. If you guys haven't heard the news yet, CBD has been cycling around most of the major sports for the last few years between legalities and issues. And we've talked to Tim about it, where a lot of these star players that are on teams that are in legal states still cannot use CBD. Otherwise, they violate their contracts, right? They stand chances of getting arrested and having other issues coming down the road, right? But now, as we all know, most people out there know who Rob Gronkowski is. He retired from football last year, and he just basically started joining with a CBD company, right? And now they're bringing that CBD company is now joining the Patriots. So the Patriots are going to be doing the first promotional CBD partnership within the league, and within, I believe, most every other sport franchise that's out there right now. I may be wrong, but I want to say that's huge. Huge shout out to the Patriots for making that step, man. Like, that's not an easy thing to do, especially with, again, when we talk about the stigmas and the sensitivity of legalization of cannabis and where we're at in this day and age where not everybody's legal, but mass is. But I just want to say that that's just huge for me, because Robert Kraft, if anybody knows who Robert Kraft is, he's an older business owner. These are the guys that we typically would not stand behind what's going on with this CBD or cannabis movement. So I just want to give a big, huge shout out to those guys. I'm a huge football fan and I'm a Patriots fan, but it's going to be interesting to see how all the major sports accept CBD, especially like baseball, because as we know, a lot of these guys get injured a lot, right? They're on tons of opioids. So with that being said, a lot of these guys can really be either a way to show how CBD can help, and they can really use it. You know what I mean? So big shout out to Abacus Health Products, which is the Rob Gronkowski's company that's joining the Patriots. So I just want to get that out there, guys. So I think that's awesome.
That is fantastic. Another area we're seeing that in is golf. More and more golfers now are really appreciating the benefits of CBD, and if something like the Patriots, Gronk and Robert Kraft getting on board with this could perhaps open up the floodgates and show that this is something that can really benefit professional sports.
Well,
and I agree with you, Joe.
It's very interesting because we've actually had a couple people leave football earlier this season because of them getting in trouble for substance abuse violations due to using CBD, right? And a lot of these guys are like, listen, this is what works for me. I can function, I can sleep, I can eat. What's worse than an athlete on opioids? You know what I mean? I don't get it. You know what I mean? But for years now, the NHL has been lenient towards CBD, right? So they've been lenient. They've kind of looked the other way. They've let their players use it, and and as we know, the NHL is a pretty tough sport. So, and they've found great benefits with it, and they'll share those stories if you guys look for them. So now, Major League Baseball is also getting on board. But I mean, with all this happening, Tim, when does the government go, we got to make this legal, right?
Enough already. When do they throw the towel in, right? That's what we're all kind of waiting for with bated breath. Mm-hmm. And I do think that we have seen more positive developments in the last few months than we have ever. Mm-hmm. Is full legalization around the corner? I don't want to crush anyone's dreams. Probably not. That's a pretty major fundamental policy change, and our domestic politics are just set up not to really allow such major fundamental changes to ever occur. Right. But what is a lot more likely to happen is seeing bills like the Safe Banking Act, which recently passed through the House. I think a lot of people know it is looking better and better every day to get through the Senate and to be signed into law. Things like the States Act, which would allow states to pursue their own call on legalization. They could legalize, they could not. That would leave it to the states. I think it's a lot more likely we're going to see some, legislation like that passed before full federal legalization. But honestly, things like that can really be game changers. And I think if we were to see the Safe Banking Act and the States Act both pass and get signed into law, you're almost as good as full legalization. That's really letting the states themselves dictate. It's not the federal government saying all states have to legalize or all states have to criminalize. Rather, it's each state is allowed to make their own decision. Right. Which I agree with, and I think that's a good compromise if that's what gets this done.
I mean, we're now in that time frame now, right? Where legislatures are going back into to the House, right? They're going back to work. They're looking at these bills again. We're seeing all sorts of companies and associations presenting their policies, right? Which is crazy. The UNPA is putting forward a CBD policy. You have the NCIA is releasing guidelines for their federal cannabis regulation after legalization. We're getting all these things from every which way. It's going to be amazing to see what happens this year with how we vote. People, again, we got to get out there and vote, guys. Do some research.
Yes.
There's a lot. I mean, the information is endless and it's everywhere right now. So you guys can go online, find a candidate that you like, and just really research the policies because everybody.
And if you're lazy and don't want to do the research yourself, organizations like MPP, the Marijuana Policy Project, and NORML have done the research already. So go to those websites. They've got legislative updates. They've got tracking. They've got different politicians in different regions, and they rate them on their cannabis history and past voting records. So even if you're too lazy to do the research yourself, it's been done. Right. But go out there, look at those resources, use those resources. There's a reason Marijuana Policy Project is putting these kind of gradings out. It's so people can become educated and they can vote and they can make wise decisions to get policy that we really believe in implementing.
Yeah, and definitely. I mean, there's people out there, guys, and hopefully, I don't have it confirmed yet, but we'll have one of those people coming on the air here shortly to discuss our options, what to look for into this season, and who to listen to, and what to believe that we see out there. Because I mean, it's a circus, right? I mean, it seems like it's just become every year. It's more and more of a circus about everything, and it's hard to keep up, especially with now that we're into our Democratic debates or Republican debates, and we all have lots of things we want to look for and hope for, and see in our candidates, but this is the number one hot button topic right now in the United States. It has to be. And where the revenue flows can affect so many people, like we see out in Colorado, where school systems and the counties are getting this money back that they can restructure the roads and things like that. Pennsylvania just released one of the most I don't know if you saw it yet, Tim, but their bill that they just pushed to the House was amazing.
Huge. Delivery, social clubs. I mean, everything. This is what should be done. I love it.
Yeah, I mean, it was great because it actually, it's. I think I feel like when I read this the other day, I almost had a tear in my eye because I'm like, this is what Vermont's been trying to do for the last year and a half, right? Like, this is literally.
Wonder that. 24/7.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. But this is like their blueprint, kind of like where we wanted to be, right? You know what I mean? Like, low tax. People can grow. It's real cheap to get into the industry. They want to help. The people that can't afford, the people who have been affected by it, with jail or anything sort of that way. They want to make sure these people get in first, right? And then they're going to cap the corporations. They're going to cap the corporations, and they're only going to allow so many licenses and this and that. So like they really looked at all the little loopholes that every other state's had an issue with in the last 4 to 8 years now, and have addressed them, which is great. Hopefully Vermont can look at this and say, hey, like this is an amazing. Bill, you know what I mean? The only thing that I look at and go, wow, is, there's $100,000 application fee. But even in Vermont, we're floating, $75,000 application fee for large scale grows, which can easily be, that's a drop in the water compared to what your investment could bring back for you. Now, Tim, I don't want to talk about this all the time, but again, we're in Croptober, right? People are harvesting their plants. People are stealing plants. People are still outside. People are inside. People are hanging. People are doing everything we can. But as we are right now, we have no laws have changed for any sort of transportation, allowance of how big of products you're allowed to have on you, or any of that here in Vermont, just so everybody knows. We don't want anybody getting in trouble because, the biggest concerns are shipment of cannabis, right? We've seen people get pulled over. We've seen trucks get pulled over. And right now it's, we're in that share mentality. All of everybody's crops have come in, like we were talking about with like the Halloween area. Is there anything that people should just be cautious about right now?
I mean, yeah, of course. This is not a risk-free industry. The Farm Bill obviously legalized hemp, but that doesn't necessarily mean that every law enforcement officer has gotten the memo on that. That doesn't mean that, these kids running around grabbing hemp plants thinking it's high-test marijuana have gotten the memo on that. And there are still some major concerns. Hot crops are a major concern. Testing. That is absolutely critically important. The first step of any successful business in this industry is going to make sure you've got a valid COA from a reputable lab that is going to indicate that Delta-9 level is below 0.3. That threshold is where we define hemp. It's where the federal government has defined hemp in the Farm Bill, and that's one of the most critical components. Now, if cultivators have been doing what they're supposed to do, they've been testing along at least once or twice during the growing season, using a ratio testing early on to see where they're going to be at, then that shouldn't be as big of a problem. But if this is something where you've not a lot of experience with the plant and have just kind of grown it and let it go too long, there's a chance that crop could be hot. Mm-hmm. And that doesn't mean the end of the world, but that certainly means that there needs to be some remediation steps taken. But you can't even know about that if you don't have a valid test. So that's going to be one of the most critical components. If you plan on extracting, if you plan on transporting, if you plan on making this into any sort of products, those COAs and that testing is going to be critical. Mm-hmm. So that's one of the major concerns that people should have right now. Get that COA, ensure your crop is legal, ensure your crop is under the 0.3% THC threshold, and if it's not, have a plan in place of what to do.
Right. I mean, again, guys, not much has changed. There's been all sorts of conversations, issues. We've seen some arrests that are positive and negative in towards the industry, which don't need to happen. So again, we were talking about a little bit earlier. I got a couple more things for you, but the biggest thing is Halloween's coming up, right? There's probably going to be a little bit more fun going on at the adult parties. How can people protect themselves this year, Tim, if they're going to a party? What's the biggest thing for transportation, things like that, of said products?
Well, if you've got adult use products, you have to remember that adult use THC, while it is legal to possess and it is legal to consume, it is not legal to buy or sell. So you should not be buying or selling anything. If you are going to bring some adult use products to these parties, make sure you are within your possession limits. In the state of Vermont, that is 1 ounce. Do not have more than 1 ounce of flower on you or more than 5 grams of concentrate on you. Be responsible. Common sense. Don't go to a party and do 8 dab hits and then jump behind the wheel of a car. That is not going to do anybody any good. You're putting yourself at risk, and more importantly, you're putting the industry at risk. These are not the type of stories that, we need out there. So be responsible, be smart, be respectful, but have fun too. With all of the things we need to be concerned about, I don't want to get it lost. This is a great time of year. It's a fun type of year. Adult use cannabis is legal. It is legal to consume. So by all means, go have some fun, but be smart about it.
Right.
And, know your limits. Don't exceed them. Don't try to push things, because those are just the type of stories that the prohibitionists love to jump on top of and make mountains out of molehills.
Right.
So I got a small little story I want to share with you guys, and I think you'll get a really good chuckle out of it. I was at Cannafest on this Saturday, okay? And there are a lot of amazing medical companies there, okay? And obviously I have a medical license for the state of Arizona, so it's all patients. And the quality of medicine, obviously, at these events is of extremely high quality. And I got to be honest with you guys. I mean, you guys both know that I'm a pretty heavy smoker, both flower and dabs. And it was around dab number 8, which is why I bring this up, because that's what you're just talking about. If you do 8 dabs, obviously you don't want to get behind the wheel of a car. So it was around dab number 8 that I realized I might want to slow down a little bit. The problem was that all these products were so amazing and they tasted so great. At that point, I was just kind of like, this is amazing. I mean, who doesn't want to try this wonderful live resin? Well, sure. That would be absolutely... I caught myself in the nice air-conditioned VIP room with 2 bottles of water for the next 25 minutes, kind of staring at the wall going, this was a really good idea.
Well, it's like I don't know if anybody's ever seen the Joe Rogan the Netflix special he did. It was two Netflix specials ago. I'm trying to remember the name of it right now. But one of the funniest ones about edibles and consumption of edibles, because again, like we talked about earlier, they can be deceiving. You know what I mean? You can get something the size of a cough drop that can have 400 or 500 milligrams of cannabis in it that can literally knock your socks off, or you can get this huge brownie that might not affect you that much. And again, it's, it all depends on so many different things, strains, and how they made the products. But, with Halloween coming up, we just want to make sure everybody's a little cautious and careful. So that being said, I had, I want to give a big shout out to the first Cannabis Lounge that had opened up in LA, right? They've been open. They literally sold out their first 30 days of being open. They're sold out 30 days ahead of time. And now the California government regulators are requiring them to split in two, because obviously it was the first open consumption license that included a restaurant. So they have food there. It was it's really unique. We have a couple of videos of the place posted up to our social media in the Weeds. And it's really cool. So it's definitely an experience. It's something that we hope to see that can go global. You know what I mean? Tim.
Yeah.
One of the biggest things I saw today, and this is something that I go, because now we're talking about, Cannabis Cafes going global, and we got all these bills, going to these floors, and we have all these, former thises and former that's, and, this guy and that guy all making claims and making their two opinions. But, I've been saying this for a long time, and you know this as well, and I want to run this by you. And I don't know if you or Braden have either caught this at all or not, but the former FDA chief, wants the federal government to regulate the state marijuana markets, right? So the former Food and Drug Administration Commissioner Scott Gottlieb, who was released, he was there up until recently, had said Monday that the federal government should regulate state marijuana programs, right? Which is something that we've talked about a few times back and forth, Tim, just because of some of these issues that we see with the vape products and the medical issues, and then who is watching who, you know what I mean? Who's making sure that these tests and facilities are doing the right thing, who's making sure these dispensaries are doing the right thing, and who is backing up and providing that enforcement when it needs to happen. You know what I mean? So it was a very great read, and he has a lot of great comments. But the thing that I was really kind of blown away by was that he would like to see the recreational use shut down entirely. You know what I mean? Which is amazing. But
it's absurd.
Again, what do you think about what Gottlieb had to say? Is it a bunch of? I mean, is there some validity to some of it? I mean, is it some of it we should be looking at? Because I mean, a lot of it kind of goes. It's kind of very hypocritical, this article. You know what I mean? As I'm reading, it's
unbelievably hyprocritical. And who cares what Dr. Gottlieb has to say? He resigned anyway. I mean, this is the line that you get from prohibitionists. This is a line you get from the medical community that doesn't understand cannabis. And this is a line that you get from people who have still drank the Kool-Aid and still believe, this is reefer madness and this is a dangerous drug and it's going to lead to people shooting heroin and smoking methamphetamine and, it's just absurdity. I mean, come on already. How long are we going to cling to these vestiges of fear? And that's what this comes down to. It is all fear, and it's irrational fear. I've said this all along. The prohibitionist's main argument is we're scared. No matter what form that argument takes, it all comes down to this basic fear. I can guarantee you Dr. Gottlieb has never sat back and smoked a joint. I can guarantee you that he has no idea what it actually does, and that this is, again, it's fear-based mongering that is just, it's not productive to the conversation. It doesn't add anything. It's not a counter-argument. It's just yammering from somebody who, frankly, should not talk about things they don't know about.
Right.
I'm sorry. Right. You can have a medical degree, but that does not mean you understand cannabis.
Right. Well, I mean, we talked about Gottlieb a lot in the FDA and their approach to the legalization standpoint, but it's the first time that anybody that I've seen say, "Hey, it should be a government-run thing," because everybody's trying to leave it to the states. And like we said, we've discussed a lot of these issues prior in the past, and for the first time, I mean, I'm not all excited that Gottlieb's on my side on this thing, but it brings up a good question. You know what I mean? Like there is this oversight that we need. Who's going to be in control of the oversight? And how do we make it?
And I agree with you, Joe. Oversight is necessary. Gottlieb and the FDA would love to have this. They want to do away with recreational because they want to make sure this is all controlled by the pharmaceutical companies. I mean, where do you think that money is coming from?
Well, that's why I bring it up, because
ridiculous.
A lot of these articles we bring up and we kind of sit back, and then even when we're on our social media, which kind of fires people up, because a lot of people are like, "Hey, Joe, you know better than this," and it's like, no, I do know better than this, but this is the propaganda that's out there, right? This is the back and forth. We try to point out the hypocrite. How hypocrite things are and where they lie, and we do push out articles out there that we know are just a bunch of jokes because we want to see who's paying attention. You know what I mean? Who's reading these articles? Who's paying attention? Because like we talk about all the time, there's positive material out there and there's negative material out there, and it goes both ways. You know what I mean? Tim, we actually have a caller that just called in right now while we were talking to you, who has a question for you, Tim, about CBD. Jeff, are you there?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, Jeff. Now, you wanted to ask Tim a question about CBD. Go ahead.
Well, I'm wondering if you could tell me what's the amount a person is allowed to travel with, around the state of Vermont.
With CBD?
Yeah.
Unlimited.
I mean, of course, they're not going to be able to tell the difference if they stop me, but...
Well, that's the biggest...
there lies the problem.
Right, well, that's... Yeah, go ahead, Tim. Sorry.
No problem at all. So CBD, you can travel with an unlimited quantity of CBD, that oil, as long as that oil's THC content, again, is less than the 0.3%. That was pretty much made legal. That was completely made legal by the Farm Bill. So anywhere within the continental 48 United States, theoretically, according to federal law, you are perfectly okay to travel with as much CBD as you want. You can fly with it, again, as long as you're in the lower 48. One big caveat there is you cannot cross the Canadian border with CBD. That's still a huge no-no. But anywhere within, you could have gallons of CBD, and you are within your legal rights to do so. Would law enforcement maybe give you some hassle? Absolutely. There's a chance of that happening, but ultimately they would not be able to convict you of a crime unless that THC percentage was over the 0.3.
Right, and we actually just saw some reports back about how a lot of these police departments guys are having the hardest time differentiating the difference between THC and CBD, right? So there's a lot of arrests being made right now that are, somebody who's innocently carrying a CBD product and they're getting arrested and charged with a cannabis product because the testing is just not accurate. So, I mean, like Tim says, CBD, that's the thing. The biggest problem is when you get pulled over, how does the officer at large or, whoever is dealing with an issue with you handles the situation, right? Like Tim knows because, he's seen it. We've had some of these issues where it's been one plant over the count, people are getting in trouble. And Tim has seen it all from, the cop making the right decision and turning away. Like, there's a viral video going around right now where, a patient got pulled over, handed the officer his products, his cannabis, right? And the officer just kind of gave it back to him. It was like, hey, great. You know what I mean? At some point, within our country, that stigma will go away, right? Where the officer will look at it and anything different than a pack of cigarettes, right? If you're smoking in the wrong spot, they're going to tell you to move, right? Hopefully we can get to that someday. It's a great call because especially nowadays, like we're talking about the holiday season, people are going to be driving around with edibles, right? What's going to happen if you get pulled over and you have one that looks suspicious, right? Well, how do you tell it's a THC or a CBD? Those are the biggest issues that we still have to deal with here now. But Jeff, definitely appreciate the call. Thank you for tuning in.
Oh, yeah, thanks a lot, Jeff.
I had another question. Regarding, supposedly the marijuana dogs don't smell THC; they smell CBD. I don't know if you're familiar with this information, but they're not. From my understanding, the dogs are not trained to smell the THC. It's the CBDs that they smell, and then they're like, "Well, it's weed."
Right. Well, I think most of it, the cannabis is so close that they smell cannabis. You know what I mean? A lot of the times, I think now, and Tim can back this up a little bit, is with the dogs, a lot of these dogs are getting put out to rest. You know what I mean? They're not there to find
they're
cannabis.
Looking for bombs.
Right. Well, they're still looking for cocaine, opioids, things of that nature, heroin. Like they'll still sniff that out. They're either being retrained or put to pasture, or when that dog does find that product, they have to just kind of avoid it, right, Tim? Is that how it's working right now?
Yeah, that's exactly right. A drug sniffing dog cannot differentiate between hemp, which contains less than 0.3% THC, and high test, which contains more. Absolutely right. They're not smelling the CBD; they're smelling the plant, or THC actually either. They're not smelling any of the cannabinoids; they're smelling the terpenes. Which is where you get your scent from.
Wow.
But they can't differentiate. And so there's no way. If they yap.
Yeah, I'm producing essential oil of cannabis from a CBD strain. And it's my understanding that I haven't had it tested yet, but apparently from an Oregon company who does test their product, they said there's absolutely undetectable amounts of CBD and THC in the essential oil. We haven't talked about the hydrosol yet. But I'm wondering if it's going to trigger, if I tried to travel abroad with it or something, it smells like the best perfume, if you like that smell.
Right. Well, I just pulled up a couple of quick articles really quick, Jeff, because I'm sitting right here in front of the computer, and you make a great question. I want to make sure that what we were telling you is correct. But right here, about the first 4 or 5 articles you can pull up, it says basically right there that they cannot tell the difference. They're basically relying on like the terpenes or, what is giving off those smells. I'm trying to figure out right now. But then again, there's numerous articles about how many times that the dogs aren't always correct when it comes to cannabis either. You know what I mean? Because obviously with smells like that, especially with cannabis and things that we know, like, scents can stay around. Like you said, it could be a CBD or it could be something a little bit different. But what they're trained for is that terpenes. Now, there are other plants that create the same terpenes that cannabis does as well, that people don't realize. Like, cannabis is not the only plant that makes cannabinoids, right? So
that's very true.
We talk to a lot of the herbalists that come onto the show, and they'll open your minds to, ginger has terpenes in it. You know what I mean? All these different things. These, most of what you consider your natural holistic remedies are things that have a lot of these cannabinoids in them, terpenes in them, things that really affect your body in a certain way. That's why knowing your endocannabinoid system is very crucial in your strains and all the food that you input, right? But again, as far as can a dog tell a difference? No, not between CBD and THC. But the problem is neither can most of these drug test kits that they are providing these officers with for quick tests. You know what I mean? The only thing I can think of, Jeff, that really help you out that might combat you taking large amounts of product is if you're working with the testing lab and you have these products tested, they're going to release to you some form of a biotech THC, which is going to give you a barcode system, and it's going to give you your test results. If all your product is in bales or in sealed containers and they're marked properly, that's going to also really expedite the system of working with a police officer if you are pulled over. Because if you can literally show them that white paper and be like, look, I've had everything tested, here's my lab results, it really is just hemp. Right.
That's going to be something that's going to make the process a lot easier. Obviously, depending on law enforcement, how courtesy you are with them and how they are with you, depending on what type of mood the officer is and what his stance is, like all these things come into play.
Laid last night or not?
But it's true. But then again, Jeff, I guess the biggest thing I'll give you too, real quick, is if you're gonna produce a product that you tend to sell or market in any sort of way or transport with you that's going to be in bulk fashion, we talked to Lighthouse Genomics last week. We talked to MCR Labs. What Brandon just said is crucial, especially if you plan on mailing anything. Because even if you want to mail anything, you have to have this paperwork, right? You have to be able to show the USPS or whatever agency that you are bringing your product through, whether it's TWA or any sort of shipment place. If you're going to drive and ship it, if you're going to transport it. The biggest thing it will be, and Tim will tell you, is you're going to cross state lines is where you're going to get nailed if that's going to be an issue. But get your products tested, right?
If it's tested, COAs.
Yeah, if it's tested, and I have the paperwork. Theoretically, I could mail it around the lower 48. Then, huh?
Yes, absolutely. If you have that COA and you have a test statement that this is hemp and hemp derived or hemp seed oil, then the United States Postal Service does have guidelines in which they will accept and mail CBD and hemp-derived CBD products.
And I recommend using the USPS over any other shipping service. They're a lot more lenient. There's a great article.
Once you got the money for your own private carrier, that's definitely the way to go.
There's been a lot of other carriers that have made issues out of small things like this. There's a great article that we posted to the In the Weeds page on Facebook. If you're not a fan already, go check it out because it's a great article, and it really talks about USPS, why they're probably one of your number one shippers at this moment. Again, guys, you still have to get your paperwork and everything in line, but they're probably going to be one of your safest options.
True, because they need a warrant to open it.
True. They need the warrant, but the warrants are very attainable if they have a means and a suspect of a product. You know what I mean? They'll just hold it for you. They'll have the warrant the next day, and then they're just going to hold on to your products. You know what I mean?
Well, that's very helpful.
So call the federal marshal over, and he'll just go, "Here you go.
Right.
Thanks. Open the package. Have a nice day."
I'm an older man. They don't bother me as much. When you're younger, you get pulled over. I think it's like it's illegal to be young almost in the United States.
That is true.
So I'm a senior citizen and I'm respectful of police officers. I don't take personally what they do. They can't help it if they're misguided. But my other question is, it's not really changing the subject because it's on the subject of marijuana, and I want to know where you guys are of the genetic engineering of marijuana and how long it's been going on.
Right. Did you catch last week's show, Jeff, where we had...
No, I didn't.
Yeah, we had Lighthouse Genomics on, right? So we actually delve into this. There'll be an archive on the WGDR.org website, and or you can go to our YouTube page, which I believe we already have last week's episode up.
Okay.
So you can listen to the whole episode. This is a big issue. Tim, I'm going to hand the reins over to Tim because he can explain to you the law side of it. But the big issue is that, we talk about, oh man, I can't even believe I can't think of it right now. The Galaxy, the Phylos Galaxy guys, right? So the Phylos Galaxy, this is where the big, problem happened was, they basically lied to everybody. They pulled the rug out from everybody, and now they own all this bioengineering,
trademarks,
right?
Bios, all that, yeah.
So there entails an issue, but when there's places that do testing, they do like we were talking to Lighthouse Genomics, but they're out of Canada. So to use a company like that for us here in America, now we're crossing country lines. You know what I mean? And America and Canada aren't eye to eye right now on a lot of those laws and legalities of that kind of stuff right now. So in America, it was Phylos, right? So Phylos did it for many years. They were collecting. They created the Phylos Galaxy. If you guys have never seen it, it's actually a really cool thing that they built. But ultimately, in the end, it was a major scam, I guess you could say, whether it was purposeful or not. But money talks and things like that happen. So. Nowadays, though, and Tim can back this up again, there's ways to protect your strains. Now, can you trademark them and bring them to the Senate to fight over and stuff like that? Probably not at this point. But, with Lighthouse, if you go to use a company like this, or even with the Phylos Galaxy, they give you certificates, right? So say you made your own strain, you've been running it for years, you want to send it to make sure, they'll make sure it is what you say it is or think it is, because they can do that testing, and then they'll also certify your strain to be what it is that you say it is. So now you have a certificate of that strain that you are running, right? And with that certificate, you have all the testing and everything else done as well. Now, I guess my question for you is it something you're looking to get into, or are you looking for some sort of protection for your own cultivars?
Well, I met a genetic engineerist in the mid-'90s, and he was very open about what he did. And he kept saying, we do this, we do that. I didn't want to ask him who we were. Mm-hmm. He said they hired 3 Russian scientists, and they had tractor-trailer trucks going out of California. I wanted to get his number for a minute there, but I'm totally anti GMO activist.
Right.
So it was kind of appalling, but very tempting to me. And but I said, you don't GMO, you just hybridize, right? He goes, oh no, we use a virus to cross the species barrier. I'm like, you use a virus? He goes, we clean it up afterwards, and he goes, would you, I go, well, what are you engineering it for? He says, oh, size and potency. Mm-hmm. This will make your hair stand on end, because, I smoked weed back in 68. We didn't have ganja like this. Once in a while, you might get some lamb's breath from Jamaica or Michoacan,
Yeah, the potencies back then were half, if not less than half, of what we see nowadays. But that's where these guys came in and got involved, right? Because, like you just said, they're making these plants a lot more potent. They're making the buds a lot more bigger. Nowadays, you can do a lot of that with nutrients and just the way you grow, which I think nowadays. And I may be wrong, Brandon can help me with this, but I think we're taking a step back into doing things properly, because I think at some point we started to over-engineer, over-bioengineer, over-nutrient, over everything to get the biggest, baddest buds we could. And now that we are back into the land of legality, becomes restrictions, right? So now all these miracle grows that these guys were dumping in their plants to get them to go, 15 feet tall and to grow buds the size of my forearm, are killing people. You know what I mean?
Right.
And we realize that nowadays. So now we're starting to see people take a different stance. At least here in Vermont. Unfortunately for us, we are in a craft state, for me personally. And in being in here in New England, everybody takes pride in their cannabis that they grow. It's not so much how fast can we get it up, how big can we make it, how quick can we get it out, and how quick can we get it into someone's hands to start the next round, right? It's more like, hey, we want to take our time. We want to make sure the trichomes are perfect and amber or white or however you want your trichomes to be when you cut down your plant, then you dry it perfectly right, and then you cure it for the next 5 weeks in a jar. And then we see the products that don't do that at all, right? They just cut corners. I mean, everything is what you want. But as far as, without these guys doing this genetic testing, without these guys pushing the genetics of this plant, I don't think we would know half of the benefits of the plant nowadays. You know what I mean? What they were using, who these guys work for, is hard to say, because, the government probably won't admit that it was something that they did, but it could be something within the government, could be a privately funded research. We don't know. You know what I mean? It could be a military research project that they did on monkeys. Unfortunately, it's something we don't know, but there's been a lot of it.
It was funny because I asked the guy, I said, I said, you hired 3 Russian scientists. He goes, well, would you rather they were making bombs or engineering marijuana? And, in hindsight, I think, well, that's an interesting, comparison there, Well,
sadly, and we're going to talk about this real quick. The whole astronaut program, we kind of went and did that with the Russians, from the Nazis and stuff like that. We brought them in because, hey, we know you did all this bad stuff, but we're going to let it go if you come work for us. You know what I mean? We'll just turn a blind eye. Jeff, we're running low on the show here, but I got one question for you now that I have you on the line, and we learned a little bit more about you. You said you're a senior citizen. Cannabis has obviously been something that's been in your life. Now, obviously you're a consumer of cannabis, correct?
Well, I'm consuming the essential oils now. I happen to be an addict. If I smoke the THC, I'm back. I just smoke all the time until I can't breathe. So
right now, are you taking your essential oils medically, or is it just something for recreation?
No, I self-medicate. I stay away from doctors. Their cure is worse than the disease, if you ask me. I just act like I have all the diseases, and I address the situation, and so I'll probably live to be 100.
So now, how are the essential oils working for you? I mean, we talk to people that do RSO and FICO and edibles and pretty specialized materials, but we didn't really talk to people that are doing the essential oil aspect.
Well, there's not very many people doing it. They're like, well, there's no CBDs and no THC in it. Why are you doing it? Well, there is these terpenes. It has the mycerine. I don't know if I'm saying it right. And this other one, they're a couple of the most studied terpenes in the plant. Mm-hmm. And so this potentized in the oil, which is, antidepressant, anti-anxiety. Mm-hmm. I don't really have a lot of those issues, but I have friends, and I'm sharing this medicine. And my friend's like, man, my anxiety, that stuff really, really, really worked, like in a day.
Awesome. Now, is that something you take topically and rub it on, or just something you actually ingest?
Internally and topically. I put it on my wrist. I have carpal tunnel really bad. I did, over the years, and I've used nutrition to heal it. It came back. And I put some, I said, oh, wait, it's anti-inflammatory. I poured it on my wrist. My carpal tunnel went away overnight.
Yeah.
From the essential oil,
I mean, we hear great stories, and it's always awesome to talk to somebody who's using it in a medical way to solve a problem and how it reacts to them. Jeff, we actually have to get going now. We do have
all right, well, you're on every week?
We are on every week, 12 to 2, right here, and you can stream us live anywhere from WGDR.org or our new affiliate, StoneAgeMagazine.com.
Okay, cool. So that's Fridays.
Every Friday, 12 to 2. And then if you go on Facebook, follow us on Facebook. You will get a lot of information that way as well.
What's your name?
My name's Joe Smith. It's my real name.
Sure is.
Not an alias, I swear.
Thanks a lot.
All right.
Guys, have a good day.
Thank you, Jeff. A huge shout to Jeff, who called in today. Bunch of great questions. And this is why we do the show, because as you know, there's different levels of knowledge everywhere, right? So some people know, some people don't. Now, what I want to say, guys, really quick, we got about 10 minutes before we had to cut out to Jessalyn Dolan's program, and then about probably 5 minutes before we got two segments coming up for you. We do have tickets to give away. BTV Local 420, and we're going to do it pretty much right now while we have a little bit of time. So if you guys want to win 2 tickets to the Dazed and Costumed Haunted Grow House event going on, which is also being sponsored by our good friend Tim here at Vermont Cannabis Solutions, we're going to give away 2 tickets. So, guys, give us a call, 802-454-7762 to win the tickets. And, again, it's in the Williston or Winooski area. We can't quite give you the address yet, but I can tell you there's going to be live bands, dab bars, so much fun stuff going on. and you got to win the tickets to get there. So definitely it's a ticketed event. So guys, again, win 2 tickets. Give us a call, 802-454-7762. Now, the question about, there's a great interesting question about, genomics, right? Like, testing your plants, stuff like that. But again, guys, if you're going to make a product, and there's a lot of people making products out there, and this is part of the best part about the industry. It's also some of the issues with the industry is get your products tested. Best thing we can say. Tim can't tell you guys enough about, especially with CBD. I mean, pretty much CBD is pretty much accepted most anywhere. It's crossing the state lines. It's being able to differentiate your product from a THC product quickly, right? That way you don't have law enforcement either confiscating, taking your time up, or even throwing you in jail for a night while they try to figure this all out, because this is stuff that we see, right? And like Brandon says, they could come down with a marshal within 20 minutes and give you that warrant, or they could seize your product and wait two weeks to get a warrant. You know what I mean? So we've seen it both ways. We just want to let you guys know to have a safe, fun Halloween. There's plenty of parties going on. There's plenty of events going on. Just be safe. And if you guys ever need a lawyer, give Tim a call. If you guys
always here for everybody in the community, Joe.
Right.
I just got to court, so I do unfortunately have to run. But I will talk to you guys soon, and have a great rest of the show.
Thank you, Tim. We appreciate your time again, and good luck in court today.
Absolutely. Thank you. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.
All right. It's always great when you call in. We understand that people have a hard time with stigmas and putting their name and voices on air, but that's what we're here for. So, again, a great question about driving around with CBD guys. You know what I mean? So, obviously, there's a lot of things that we try to help everybody out. So, we got about 2 minutes before I start the segments off. We have Thomas Marcombe of Vermont Grow Coaching with his growers tips this week, and we also have Jesselyn Doan with our health tip as well. I didn't want to break up that caller I didn't want to break up that segment with the caller. So, it was very important that we answer all your questions, guys. Now, again, if you guys want to stream us live, you can find us at stonedagemagazine.com. If you guys want to find any of our archives, you can find 2 weeks of archives at www.gdr.org, or you can also go find us on our YouTube page, where Brandon puts up our show every week right away, so you guys can find our archive right away. And we'll also be putting those to our Facebook pages and our Instagram pages as well. So guys, find us out there, like us, love us, poke us, and stay tuned with who we have coming up next. Like we said, next week we have Bubba Kush. That's going to be an exciting show, guys. Yeah. As Bubba is calling us from Hawaii. Man, I'm excited, man. We got a lot of great guests coming up, guys. We have Dom Life calling in a couple weeks, right?
Oh, yeah. Todd Romboli from Dom Life. Let's give a big shout out to him. He's got an amazing story. You guys definitely going to want to tune in for that. He's a really great guy. He's doing amazing things out here in Arizona for the community. He's a huge advocate. I mean, that's definitely going to be a great show.
Right. We want to give a big shout out to a couple events going on by you tonight, right? Hard Rock is going to be out and about at Bud's Glass Joint.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we got Bud's Glass Joint anniversary party down in, they got 2 locations, but I believe this one's at the Roosevelt location this evening. Hard Rock Superjoint will be out there. Yeah, that's going to be huge. It's going to be a great time.
All right. Now, guys, that's it. That's it. All the time that I have for you today, guys. We're going to be trying to get all our pages updated. Stay talking to us. Don't go anywhere, guys. This is In the Weeds, Prohibition Talk Radio. Joe Smith and Brandon Barberio. We're going to peace out till next week. Right now, Thomas Marcombe of Vermont Grow Coaching.
Hi, this is Tom with Vermont Grow Coaching, and welcome to Grower's Guide, your weekly, beginner-friendly cannabis tips and tricks, only on In the Weeds Prohibition Talk Radio on WGDR 91.1 FM and WGDH 91.7 FM, or online at Facebook and WGDR.org. Today we're going to talk about rooting hormones. What kinds of rooting hormones are there? What are the benefits of each? And why we at Vermont Grow Coaching choose the rooting hormones that we do. So what are rooting hormones? Rooting hormones are used to promote faster, healthier root growth. For the purpose of this segment, We will be discussing the use of rooting hormones in cloning. Are rooting hormones necessary? Although not a requirement in the cloning process, they are very helpful in both your indoor and outdoor gardens. At Vermont Grow Coaching, we couldn't dream of going without a root stimulant of some sort. Rooting hormones come in both synthetic and organic options. They can be liquids, powders, gels, and even syrup-like consistencies. Many synthetic rooting hormones incorporate things like indole butyric acid to promote vigorous root growth and healthy root systems. Indole butyric acid is found in many of the top rooting hormones found at your local grow shop. They can be found in powder, gel, and liquid form. Indole butyric acid is an auxin that is regarded as safe for the purpose of rooting cuttings. In fact, it can also be found naturally, which we will discuss in a moment. In most instances, you simply dip your cutting into the rooting hormone and then into your medium of choice. However, just because it's deemed safe and is usually a faster option, it doesn't make it the best option. So what other options do you have? There are many other options to choose from. At Vermont Grow Coaching, we like to use organic and organically derived rooting hormones. When it comes to organic rooting hormones, 3 major players come into mind: aloe vera, raw honey, and willow tree extract. Although there are many natural options, these are definitely our favorites. Aloe vera contains salicylic acid and other useful enzymes. You simply break off a leaf or piece of flesh from your aloe vera plant and dip your cuttings directly into the gel. If you don't have an aloe plant, you should think about getting one. They're easy to care for and a great option for rooting cuttings. In the meantime, you could always pick up some aloe vera powder and mix that with a little water for the same effects. Honey is another great option. Honey has antibacterial properties, making it fantastic for rooting cuttings. Many novice growers don't know this, but most plants create their own rooting hormones over time. This is why you can root a plant in a glass of water, right on the windowsill. This is also where honey shines. Honey provides a bacteria and fungus barrier for the cuttings, allowing the natural rooting hormones in the plant to work their magic. Whenever possible, make sure to get raw honey. Your plants will definitely thank you. The bark from willow trees and branches actually contains salicin. This is important because salicylic acid that makes aloe vera so great is actually derived from salicin. Willow bark is also rich in natural form of indole butyric acid. That means with willow bark, you get the best of both worlds. You get the organic rooting hormone, rich in the same hormones used in commercial synthetic products. You can easily just soak some willow bark and water overnight to create an effective liquid dip for your cuttings. But why not take it one step further? If aloe, honey, and willow bark are all beneficial to the success of your clones, why not use them in unison? At Vermont Grow Coaching, we use a combination of all 3. Here's an easy recipe to remember. Add 4 ounces of willow bark to 8 ounces of water in a jar with a lid. Allow it to set overnight on the counter. The next day, add 2 ounces of aloe vera flesh and 1 teaspoon of honey. Shake the mixture and allow that to set for another hour or 2. At this point, you can dip cuttings directly into the solution, or you can strain the material with a cheesecloth to remove the bark and leaves. If you plan to save the solution, we strongly suggest straining out the plant material. Once strained, the solution can easily stay good for a couple of months if stored properly with a locking lid in the fridge. We hope you've enjoyed this segment of Grower's Guide. You should now be able to make an educated decision regarding your next rooting hormones. If you have any questions about today's segment or want to set up a consultation appointment, please feel free to reach out to Vermont Grow Coaching at vermontgrowcoach.com. You can also find us on Facebook and Instagram or contact us directly at 802-342-5381. Again, this is Tom with Vermont Grow Coaching, and I'd like to thank you for tuning into Grower's Guide on In the Weeds Prohibition Talk Radio on WGDR 91.1 FM and WGDH 91.7 FM.
Hi, this is Jessie Lynn Dolan, cannabis nurse, researcher, educator, and consultant, founder of the Vermont Cannabis Nurses Association, and co-owner of Nurse Grown Organic, bringing you a weekly tip, whole plant medicine, to whole person healing tips. This week's information comes from a nurse in Massachusetts, Deborah McCullough Hopkins. And I chose to use this tip this week because of the exciting outcomes that came for herbalists nationwide regarding fire cider. Besides upping your vitamin C, getting out in nature, and getting a good night's sleep, what other steps can you take to boost your immune system? Why not consider combining elderberry elixir with fire cider and CBD oil? Elderberry alone has gained much mainstream popularity as an immune booster, as has fire cider. An elderberry concoction is abundantly sticky sweet, and a shot of fire cider will grow hair on your chest. Each alone not the most palatable, but together the rather stimulating essence of tangy tart sweetness can be life-affirming once you get used to it. From the moment you take it, it delivers a full body sensation, letting you know that backup support has arrived. Elderberry has many promising benefits. The most well-known is an antioxidant. Human studies are few, but in rats, elderberry polyphenols were found to support immune defense by increasing the number of white blood cells, according to Healthline.com. Fire cider is a well-known, timeless herbal remedy made by combining fermented apple cider with other strong herbs and other popular antioxidant-producing plants like ginger, jalapeno, onion, lemon, oranges, turmeric, and garlic infused together to create an immune strength-building potion in its own right. Fire cider recipes have been handed down for generations and generations. Elderberry is available as a product, brand name Sambicol. Both are a bit pricey. Purchasing fire cider or Sambicol in addition to buying CBD oil will cost you a pretty penny. So let's talk about you making your own. It's fairly easy, requires some assembly and preparation of ingredients required to create these tinctures, but mostly requires your patience and what we call a tincture of time. You can buy dried elderberries. You have access to the fruit. Pick it once it turns its beautiful telltale purple ripe, then place the berries on drying screens in the dark, well-ventilated space. When they appear firm and shriveled, they're ready to place in a glass jar and be fully covered with food-grade glycerin or half-and-half mixture of glycerin and organic vodka, dealer's choice. The mixture is capped using screw-top lids and placed in a dark cabinet for at least 6 to 8 weeks. When ready, strain the berries from the elixir. Discard the berries in the compost and jar the purple awesome sauce for daily use. To make your own fire cider, get a large bottle of ragged fermented apple cider and pour it into a large 1.5-liter ball jar with enough room to combine chunks of 1 to 2 medium chopped onions, 4 to 6 cloves of diced garlic, large slices of 1 to 2 jalapeno peppers, and maybe grate a fist-sized piece of ginger to add to the mixture. Then top it off with 1 orange and 1 lemon cut into quarters and a tablespoon or 2 of turmeric or curcumin. Cover this mix, stash it next to your elderberry brew. They will both be ready to strain and use at the same time. Once strained, you can add local honey to your fire cider to sweeten the mix if you'd like. Smaller, more manageable jars filled with yeast is nice to have prepared to take that morning shot drink. Morning routines involve taking a 30 ml shot glass and filling it half full with the elderberry preparation, followed by filling the other half with the homemade fire cider. And to tickle your CB2 immune receptors, maybe add a few drops of CBD oil. Drink that daily and namaste healthy. Again, thank you, Nurse Deborah McCullough-Hopkins, for today's whole plant to whole person medicine and healing tips. This is Jessie Lynn with Vermont Cannabis Nurse Association and Nurse Grown Organic.